be willing to share information. Now, be prudent. Share information with people who you know. I'm not going to connect you with this critical person and you're going to waste their time. You are going to vet out before I send you to this person who I know can move things or get things done. Make sure that that's the right person I'm connecting you with, or make sure that you are serious before I waste the resource. Because if I bring them people who aren't serious 2-3 times, now they're gonna stop answering my call. So vet that part out, but at least be willing to share information. Everything is not for me. Every dollar that goes by is not for me to get my hand in the pot of the jar. Sometimes it's just for someone else.
Welcome to another edition of Be Great Podcast, where we always having great conversations with great people who have done great things. And today I have another great gentleman who's a good friend. We've been knowing each other for many years, and I very much admire just how he operates. This brother's very, very smart. I'll tell you, very educated brother. So he has a lot of great nuggets. So today I want to introduce my guy, Derick Williams. How you doing, my guy?
I'm doing well, Steve. How about yourself?
I'm doing great, man. I'm just glad you had a chance to sit down with me and we get a chance to chop it up a little bit. And just if you wouldn't mind, tell the people a little bit about yourself.
Well, you've told them my name, Derick Williams. I've been a resident here in Rock Hill since about 2009. Originally from Montgomery, Alabama. So you know of Montgomery for a lot of things, for the old history buffs, civil rights movement, Dr. King, things like that. For the new social media folks, the riverboat battle. You know, the people jumping in the water and whatnot. But from Montgomery, Alabama, went to an HBCU there, graduated from Alabama State University, the Hornets. Moved to Atlanta, spent a few years there working for a software company. Moved to Charlotte after that in 2002, and then worked for that company, several other companies, and then moved actually down to Rock Hill late 2008, 2009, and been here ever since. Met my wife here, who's originally from New York, and then they moved down to right outside of Charleston. And we met at the Will Church. Shortly after moving to Rock Hill, I started attending the Will, Agape International Ministries, and our pastors, Maurice and Katita Revelle, became very active, ushering and working the parking lot and just being involved in different ministries in the church. But after my wife and I got married, how I really kind of got involved in other things, and kind of, you know, I would see you at church. But one of the things I noticed about Steve, if you know Steve, Steve's like has tentacles in every area of Rock Hill. Every kind of civic group or group that's doing something to help the underprivileged, or any type. I would show up at events and I'm always, this dude is everywhere. Everybody knows Steve. So I think that's where the commonality came in. As I became more and more entrenched in the fabric of the community here in Rock Hill, I would see you at all of these different places and activities and all of these different people who are part of the city and civic groups and charity groups and all kinds of things impacting the community. And then we began to dialogue and just start figuring out, you know, we have a lot of common interests, and a lot of those lead back to impacting our community. So that's just kind of me in a nutshell.
Awesome, man. Well, I thank you, man, for sharing all that, because how I want to take the conversation, I want to kind of unpack your upbringing, kind of too much what you do far as your employment, and then I want to share with you because a lot of things we do there can then later on play a factor of how we operate outside of the workplace. Okay. And so that's something that I always say is one thing to do things you get paid for, but it's another thing when you can use those skills in other fields as well. So let's unpack a little bit about your skill set. What do you do? Kind of tell me a little bit about your work.
Well, I have a degree in computer information systems, and I started working for a company named McKesson. That was my first job, real job out of college. And I had worked for FedEx during my college years, and it allowed great company. It allowed me to work and pay for school at the same time, and it gave me structure. You know, it allowed me to build a skill set of knowing, okay, how to be on time. They run that company similar to the military, even how they tell time. Everything's on the 24-hour clock, but it taught me structure and discipline, being where I'm supposed to be at a specific time. And if you know how they run, you've got deadlines. So how to prioritize, even how you go out and deliver on routes. All of that is based on meeting an end goal or objective. How do I get all of these things delivered by this deadline? So you have to prioritize where you go, where you can get in and out the fastest. Learn that while in college. Got the job with McKesson. I was a technical consultant. One of the things that taught me was how to interface and interact with all people from all walks of life. First of all, I would tell anybody, if you work in technology, what's unique about technology, you really are thrust into a pool of people from all over the world. I presently work for Moody's, and Moody's is truly a global company. There are people that I'm on meetings and calls with all over the world. But what allowed me to just tying that into my background, to kind of fast forward, had the technical consultant job, and then they laid a bunch of us off once I moved from Atlanta to Charlotte. And kind of took other jobs, like a lot of people do in today's economy, took other jobs to make ends meet, to pay the bills. Bell South, which became AT&T, then a smaller company named Perimeter E-Security. They provided technical solutions, security for smaller banks and credit unions. And then they closed that office in Charlotte. So by then I'm thinking, okay, God, what's going on? I'm taking these jobs, a lot of them, they're downsizing, they're closing the local office. So they gave us a package. At that point, I started contracting and took another technical role as a contractor with Bank of America through Tech Systems, which is a large contracting firm. But the gentleman there, his name was Jake, and he saw something that at the time I didn't think of. And I would tell anyone, you can always have a designated path that you think you're going. God may have another plan, and he may use someone else to you to just plant a seed of something that you never thought of. I never thought of being a technical project manager. You can end up in the project management space in a lot of different ways. You can be very technical in a lot of other areas, code, program, develop. But your team may need someone who kind of pulls this body of work together, prioritized it based off of criteria that the company's given, budget, timeline, etc. And they say, hey, you have development, coding, or programming skills, but we kind of need a PM, which you can go to school and take specific classes for that. You can get your certifications. I have a couple of certifications. You can get your PMP, which means you're a project management professional. You pretty much understand the methodologies, how things should work, be planned out, scoped, risks, issues. How do you handle all of that? The recruiter, Jake, he says to me one day, I think you would be a great project manager. And I'm thinking, project manager? I don't know about that. So with Bank of America, you work, at the time, it was an 18-month rule. You can only do an 18-month tenure with them as a contractor. Prior to that, you have to roll off, and then you can come back after 6 months. They do that because in the past, there have been contractors there for years to the point they were thought of as employees. And then they ran into some legal issues with that. So when you roll off, most contracting companies will find you another role. So he says to me, I think you'd be a great project manager. but it was going to be over at the time it was TIAA Craft. So I went there, started a project management role, stayed there 2 years, left there, went to Ally Financial, which is online bank, and great company, great team, had some great people take a chance on me, even though at the time, I'd only had a short period of experience, had a technical background, but I had started doing project management, and that's what they were looking for, what they would call an ITPM, Information Technology Project Manager. So you're basically doing project management in the IT field. So we were over or responsible for a group of tools and technologies at Ally. And then you're going to either upgrade, replace them, roll them out, deploy them, implement. And so as the project manager, it is your role to help define and scope those projects. Hey, we need to purchase or develop a new technology. If one's developed, we need to roll it out. We come up with a game plan for all of that. And then you help build a schedule, the scope, define the scope. You have a budget. You have to stay within budget. And most projects are what they call agile now, which is typically a methodology, which is a methodology. And that just simply means you get your money, you have a scope, and you say, we can do this in a certain period of time. But what makes agile special, and I think this is unique as far as life skills, agile is famous for being what they call iterative, meaning we can start out down this path, but if something dictates we need to change, you're nimble, you're quick, you can quickly change and adjust course. We still have a destination to get to. It's not going to change, dramatically in most cases. It won't change dramatically. But you just learn to deviate and adjust very quickly on the fly. Typically, you're still within the same range as far as budget and timeline, but it keeps you from having to go through a lot of red tape and protocol to try to make change. You're very adaptive. You're very nimble. So it's just like if you were a car or a fighter jet or a tool the military needs to use. That's why they say some ships, they're hard to maneuver or turn, and that makes them a sitting duck because, hey, we needed to adjust and we couldn't maneuver quickly because it's so big and it takes so much to move it. With agile, just using analogies, you're a lot more nimble. Oftentimes your team is very small and, containerized, so to speak. And it just allows you the ability to adapt and change very quickly without having to go through a ton of red tape and protocol and whatnot.
I want to stop you right there because I want to kind of get an example of one of the projects you had an opportunity to do so people can actually see this is how it applies in real life. So if you can, one of the situations that you have done.
Well, being as specific as I can without divulging details, one of the companies, we were rolling out a new security technology, but it had to reach out into every area of the organization. Typically, you have business units within companies, and they are there to do specific things. Some business units, they're responsible for products or tools that are very specific and are revenue generating. And everyone tells you, you do not mess with anything that generates revenue. All types of red flags are going to be raised and alarms are going to go off if you impact the customer's ability to purchase something, reach the company online, things of that nature. So typically those teams, they get a lot of influence. And if they say, you can't do this, we don't care what your priority is. We can't do this or take our system down during these months because we have this going on, you have to figure out a way to work around it. So obstacles. Once an obstacle seems to be insurmountable, there's always a way. Because what you typically have to do, you have to get buy-in from the people who are responsible. And first thing you have to do is document and make sure they understand. Let's say if you're a bank, which I've worked for a few of those, you typically have government entities that oversee and regulate banks, even to how you handle and store data, how data's moved, where it resides, things of those natures. If those government entities say you've got 24 months to do X, then the people who are responsible for this revenue generating tool have to understand what that priority and criteria is as well. So if we don't meet this government regulation in this time frame, there's typically a financial penalty, and there could be other penalties applied. They have to understand this is the motivating factor. This affects us, you, and everyone else under the banner of this name. So now they understand, okay, we can either comply or we're going to be impacted anyway. So you have to bring facts and details. Help them understand what's the priority. It's going to impact all of us if we don't do this within a certain amount of time. Now, there can be circumstances that say we can't meet that timeline. But if we put our best effort forward and come up with a plan that says we can take part of a system down in this time frame and then another one in this time frame, and we get buy-in from the right people with the right skills and expertise to help us develop a plan, as within real life, you have to have a plan. Every day you need a plan for your life. Every week, every month, every year, what is my plan and am I sticking to it? Because otherwise you don't know what progress you're making. So what plan are you measuring your everyday activities against? And when you know where you want to go, so when everyone sees what the end destination is, that's the scope. Or the objective. Here's what we're trying to do. Here's what's motivating us. Here are some of our issues. And here's some of our constraints. Issues impact us, meaning there's something that has manifested and it is now either slowing us down, costing us more money, time, etc. And it's something we have to deal with, And that's everyday life. There are things that impact us on an everyday basis that may affect our goals and where we're trying to go and get to. But you have to have a plan. And then okay, if I have to have a contingency in project management, you always have to have an option A. You should have a B and a C. If we go down this path and an issue were to arise, what's our contingency plan? What's the impact? And then communication. One thing project managers have to do more than anything. A lot of techies can hide behind, hey, I like to code or program. I don't really like to talk to people or whatnot. Project managers, that you can't do that. We have to communicate. You've got to be a great communicator. You got to be a psychologist. You got to be a coach. When you have someone who's very specific in their skill set and they're good at it, I do this one thing and I do it great. What they ask of me, I do. And then you come to them and sometimes they have to do something out of the box, out of the norm. It throws them off. Now you've got to help that person see the objective and the goal. Why they need to do something different, how it benefits them, and how to motivate them. And you get the buy-in once again. And oftentimes it won't be that person. It may be their boss or their boss's boss. Once that person understands, and then you have to know skill sets and understand who are the stakeholders. In real life, you have to know who do I need to influence, motivate, or inform to get an action to take place. Sometimes it's you, but sometimes you're the roadblock. So it may be your boss or your boss's boss. And it's not that I'm coming to them saying, Steve is my roadblock. No. All you're going to get is more roadblocks. What you do is you come to them and you lay out the details. Here's why we're coming to you. Here's where we're going. They're going to let you know up front, now we understand. But here's why that's a problem where we're concerned. Now, what you can't do is just come in with single focus and say, well, all I care about is our priority. You have to understand the role they play and how you're going to impact them. If their tool is revenue generating, there's no way around saying, well, we don't care about that. You have to care about it. We're all in business to provide a service. So you serve a purpose. Everyone in life, we serve a purpose. How do I help you continue with your purpose, but we all buy into this bigger vision and goal, so you have to come up with a plan that accounts for we cannot do damage here, even though we need them to make some change so we all can get here. And so you get their buy-in and they help you build a roadmap to where we want to go, or scope or plan. And when you've got buy-in from everyone, then you tend to get a lot more work done because everyone's vested, everyone has a vested interest. And when you go back to your CTO, CIO, department head, and you bring all parties together, and you've laid it out and they know these are all of the people that we're going to impact, and you bring them to the table, and when they lean over and say, Steve, now Derick is tasked with doing this, we know it's going to impact you. Walk us through how when they hear you say, Derick's brought me all the details, we sat down, we came up with a plan, here's what we've advised and why this is the best path. They hear the buy-in and it's less resistance. And I often use this analogy when my projects and the people on the teams who represent different business areas. Think of it as a band. In order for a band to be good, everyone understands the instruments they play, but you also got to know the song that we're tasked with playing at this time. And we all got to sing the same song, same chorus, same verse, same line, same lyrics. If that's off, then you've got a mess. If a senior leader is aware of you're leading a project, and he comes to Steve, he comes to Derick, he goes to Jane and Adam and Tom, and he hears 5 different versions, then his trust is shot. Well, why are 5 people telling me 5 different things? I know different people have different perspectives, but hot is hot. If someone came in that door now and said, it's 91 degrees, and someone said, oh, it's 89 or it's 90, okay, that's where we're off a little bit, but that's the human deviation. That's normal. But you shouldn't have a person come to that door right now at this moment and say it's 91 degrees, and another one come in and say it's 71. Okay, something's off here. There is no way it could be that big of a gap. 90 to 88 or 91 to 88, I understand. It could just be what you have is off by a degree, but basically you're telling me the same thing. One person can't say 71 and the other one 91. So we learn that let's drill down to the basic facts. See, project management, all emotion is taken out. And in life, sometimes you have to get to that point. Take the emotion out. That's hard to do. But when you've got to execute, emotions sometimes have to be, okay, we're all emotional right now. Take a minute, take a day, and work through the emotions, set them aside. Now let's get back to the facts. This is what we're dealing with, and this is what we have to do.
Exactly. I want to take it down a different path because you gave a lot of good meat on that, and I kind of want to unpack it, but I want to apply it by how did you take from where you are with your workplace And I know, like I said, you serve in different capacities. You serve in your community that you live in. You serve in the city. You serve even at the church. How have you took some of those skills as being a project manager and applied them in different areas in the community?
Well, with project management, you really do have to think like a senior leader does. And if you realize from a CEO to CTO, CIO, these are the highest level people. But you are working every day with people who do the X's and O's, who code, who plan, even in between the middle level managers. So if I'm talking to a CTO, CIO, he just knows what's driving this. And you have to speak to that person on a level that they understand and cost and timeline, but also be able to come out of that and speak to the person who's very technical, who's doing the X's and O's, the coding and the whatnot. I think what project management has taught me is, and how it's impacted me, you oftentimes got to get in on every level and get your hands on something, because if it's for the overall good, as a project manager, there is no way to fail, and I don't play a role in that, or I'm not impacted by that. I can't walk into a senior executive's office and say, Derick did great, but the project failed. Great job, Derick, even though we were over budget and behind schedule. And no, you play a role in that. And our community is the same thing. And I think a lot of people miss that. They think as long as it's my home, my kids, but we're all interconnected. So with a project manager, I may have a certain skill set in a certain area, and I'm not using it every day. But when I'm talking to that team, and that team tells me, well, Derick, this part of the project is very critical, but we're behind, or first thing a project manager says is, tell me what I can do to help remove these constraints. Or tell me what I can do to help keep you all back on track. Is it I can physically put my hands on something to do it? Or I can go and get the help you need. So as a project manager, there's never an area where you just look at it and say, oh, well, that's their problem, not no. Our job is to problem solve. What that breeds in you back inside your everyday life. I'll give you an example. I joined my HOA when my wife and I built a home in the community we live in. Oftentimes people don't care about the HOA. As long as the dues don't cost too much, or I feel like they're not imposing on my rights, I don't care. But when you started getting involved and you started hearing of things coming around your community that could impact your neighborhood, then that's where, similar to a project manager, what can I do to help address this issue or change the outcome or the impact it? And then you start learning, okay, I gotta go and put myself in the position around other people where I can hear facts, details, whatnot. Come up with a way, or understand from my skill set what I can do to help this area, and then be willing to roll up your sleeves and go to work. And that's the biggest thing. Project managers, you have to be willing to roll up your sleeves and go to work in every area. And in the community, that's the biggest thing. Are you willing to roll up your sleeves and go to work? Because if there's something that impacts Rock Hill, well, you live in Rock Hill. So if you're on the other side of the world and they say, where are you from? Where are you from? Rock Hill, South Carolina. I heard about them on the news. Are you dealing with this? So it will follow you everywhere you go. Just like I'm the project manager on certain projects. If it fails, and they say, well, what projects have you managed? Oh, that's the one that failed. In their mind, you played a role in that failure. In your community, you live in Rock Hill. So are you a part of the failure there or what's happening there that's not good. So it basically, those skills translate. But the biggest thing is a willingness to be involved, because you have to see that I'm a part of this and I'm attached. So if it succeeds, we all win. But if it fails, we all lose.
I know what you're saying is really good, and it plays dual. So the skills that you've learned in your workplace, you can actually transfer them over to your community, which you work with the HOA. I believe you said he was the president at one.
At one point,
Okay.
yes.
I imagine that was some interest.
Oh gosh.
You get all the complaints. But with that, also in the ministry we're in, like I said, one time you were ushering, now you're part of a major project. If you don't mind, share a little bit about the project that you're helping out with. It's a pretty big task.
Well, we have a capital campaign going now. Our senior pastors and leadership believe it is time to move to a different facility in a different area of town, portion of town, not that far from where we are now, a few miles, but as many know, even here in Rock Hill, you've got Main Street, which runs down the middle of Rock Hill. You got Black Street and White Street. Now think about here in the South, traditionally what that meant. You had a line right down the center of the city. What do you think was from Black Street down this way? And what do you think was White Street from this area on? With Main down the middle. Typically divided the size of town.
Okay.
This one was more affluent because they had the resources and whatnot, and this area was a little more challenged because it was traditionally people of color and we didn't have the resources and whatnot. And even in some cities, they call them sundown cities. You could go work over here in the day, but when the sun goes down, you got to be back across that line. The area where we're moving to is a little more financially challenged, but we have 16 acres of land, and we're going to build a bigger facility there because we're outgrowing the one where we are now. Right now, where we are would be like right a block or two from Main Street. And my wife and I and another gentleman are the directors of our capital campaign. We're attempting to raise a significant amount of funding to help facilitate the building and the move into that new facility. So it's a 3-year campaign. And, we do attend the Well Church, so if people do want to attend, or you feel so led or inspired out of this conversation that you want to give, you can do so. It would be a great cause. But basically like a project, you're buying into a vision. There's something spurring a need to do something. Projects, the same as with the ministry. There's a need to move. How do we go about doing it? There's a vision that has to be made plain to the people. As the scripture says, write the vision and make it plain, that he who sees it can run with it. We documented the vision. Here's what we need to do and why. Here's what we need to raise and why. This is the timeline with which we want to do it. Here's where your help is needed. And just like a project, every team, every person who's been tapped because their area will help deliver on this goal or objective, all the members do that as well. And so our job as the directors are to help make sure the vision is broadcast not only to the church but to the community, and then make sure we get buy-in from stakeholders, and the stakeholders are the members, but also other people who want to see your goal and objective come to pass. It doesn't always have to be people who are members. It could be people who benefit from what we will bring to that community. Make sure they're aware of that goal or objective as well. And then you start to designate and tap various people who can help in different areas bring this vision to pass. So, and that's basically what we're doing as directors. We're kind of like mini project managers, because any body of work that requires a number of steps or activities to take place, it basically becomes a project, whether it's for a company or your personal life.
That's awesome, man. And so I'm glad to see the progression going forth with the project, and I'm really seeing some great traction. And so I believe if the way things are looking, you may be ahead of where you're trying to get to, and hopefully it does move a lot faster. I think we got the right people such as yourself and your wife who are working on this project together as well with another individual. And so with that, I do want to see, where is it that you see yourself moving towards, even in serving and this impacting? Do you see yourself doing more in a certain lane, business, or certain things like that in future time coming?
Well, I do have certain personal business goals that my wife and I want to achieve, and so we're still mapping and working that out, and then praying and being led, because I'm not one who just wants to just get out here and trying to do 10 things and failing, which isn't necessarily bad in itself, because you have to be someone who's willing to try things. And sometimes you gotta fail in order to know, well, hey, that's how I learned. I know not to do that this time, but I'm also one who believes everything I see isn't always for me to do. Sometimes I run across information, knowledge, contacts, people, and you'll keep them in your mental or your physical Rolodex, because as you are well aware, and I know people come to you a lot, hey Steve, we're looking for people, or we're looking for this, because you've run into contact with people. You know who to go to. Same works in technology. I've worked with certain teams who have certain specific skill sets or roles or responsibilities. Yes. Other teams will come to me and say, well, Derick, do you know anyone who's responsible for this? Because we're trying to get X done, and we don't know what teams, or we know of them, the team, but we don't know the individuals. Because you've worked with them and you have a rapport with them, you bridge those gaps. So I'm a big believer in sharing information, and I really want to make sure that point gets across in this conversation, because a lot of times, especially in our community, we like to hoard information. Yes. I want to be the bottleneck or the gatekeeper or the... All you're going to do is like calories. When you take more in than you burn up, then you get fat. And now, that's an issue in itself. Be willing to share information. Now, be prudent. Share information with people who you know. I'm not going to connect you with this critical person and you're going to waste their time. You are going to vet out before I send you to this person who I know can move things or get things done. Yes. Make sure that that's the right person I'm connecting you with, or make sure that you are serious before I waste a resource. Yes. Because if I bring them people who aren't serious 2-3 times, now they're going to stop answering my call. Yes. So vet that part out. But at least be willing to share information. Everything is not for me. Every dollar that goes by is not for me to get my hand in the pot of the jar. Sometimes it's just for someone else. And if you're doing that, what's supposed to come to you will always find its way to you. But my wife and I, we do have some things that we want to get involved in, get a little more involved in real estate. I know that's one that I've always seen, even from a child growing up in Alabama. The people who tend to have had more means, they always bought property. Yes. Always bought property. Rental houses, apartment complexes, whatever it may be, it was always about having some land. Yes. So I would say to anyone, if you can get your hands on land, rental properties, etc., strip malls, whatnot, utilize it, build some long-term wealth, and also turning that curve in life where you understand we all like nice things. But don't rely solely on going to a 9 to 5 to pay for that BMW, Mercedes, or Lexus, because now you become a slave to it. What you really want to do is build assets that have free income, disposable income, that you can buy assets that pay for those things. So if the job stops, bills are still paid. I mean, I've been laid off from 6-figure jobs before. I've walked off a 6-figure job because it was one of the worst decisions I had made in my life, and it was impacting my health. And I told my wife, I got to get out of here. And how I knew that was the right thing to do, when I turned in my laptop and everything else that came with it, I didn't know where the next job was, but I felt free as a bird. I felt the happiest I'd almost felt in all my life, because that was truly a burden and a shackle, and letting it go was like a release. Oh my God, I was never missed a beat with the bills or anything, and then an even better opportunity came along after that. But I say that to say, maturing in our process and us as a community, seeing things that happen in our community and why we can't have more impact than we do, is because oftentimes it requires resources. And if you have something to barter, you have resources, you have tools, then people will listen. They may not care for you and invite you over for dinner and want your kids in the pool with theirs, but they'll respect you and they'll listen. When you have nothing to bring to the table and it's always about them having to give to you, that's the easiest way to get the door shut or ignored. And oftentimes we just got to have the resources.
Got you on that, man. Definitely. What you're saying, I'm big on saying it like adding value.
Adding value. That's the best way to put it.
Ask for a touch or something to receive, you have to find ways to sow into. And so that is what you're saying is 100% of where I am always thinking on. And that's where, let's say if you want to pursue it, you may not know the next move all the way through and through. But if you can say in this arena, so such as going to your church or wherever, sometimes we come in, we all have areas that we're broken in. In life we do have areas we're broken in, but you have to turn on the light and say, man, how can I add to versus just taking out? Because you always taking out, people going to get the nudge, oh, here he come again.
What does he want now? But there's even a scripture that says your gifts make room for you.
There you go.
If you are good at what you do, and don't always want $1 for it. Sometimes play the long game.
Yeah.
Sometimes people will see, oh, I can go over there and tell them this and get $100. That's all you got, $100. Versus, it benefits us all to have Steve or Derick at the table because this is what they bring. When you add value, people will make sure there's room at the table for you, because they see the value you bring to everyone at the table.
Yeah.
And they will make sure you're there. If you're not, why and so here, get them here. Why and so here, bring them here. Well, what's preventing them from getting here? We got that, take care of. We got that taken care of.
I think of it like this too. It's sometimes people like to go to small churches, and I'm not saying anything wrong with that, but they say, because I want to make sure I get connected to the pastor. My thought when I came from me and your wife went to the church before together, and nice size ministry there. But I learned early on, it's not me trying to get next to the pastor, but me adding value to this ministry is how I'm going to get attention whenever it's needed from my leaders. So not always have to be the pastor. It could be any other leader that may need someone to step up. They say, well, hey, this person over here killing the game over here. Let me have a conversation with this person and see how that person can help what I'm doing. So that's always the mindset, is not to try to get close to the pastor or the one who's pulling all the strings, but how can I help in what we're doing to help whatever that vision is to move forward, and in return, you will get attention from those leaders. It's been several times Pastor Paul has called you. He's called me on a lot of times to say, Steve, I need somebody to step up in this area. And I'll be like, okay, cool, I got you.
Once again, your gifts make room for you. My wife and I have had the opportunity to, as they say, bless the mic, or, you're asked to speak about something. I've never, ever, ever asked to get up and speak about anything. Don't seek that attention. But if you're good at what you do, people will recognize and they'll call you.
Yeah.
Similar to you, before moving to Charlotte, I lived in Atlanta and attended a huge ministry there. My brother-in-law was on staff there and never sought the attention from, I could say the name and everyone would instantly know who that is and whatnot. Never sought that attention, but what I was a part of the evangelism team that would go out and witness to the people, and we did a lot of great things in the city, and just lent my supply in that area, meaning brought what my skill sets were to that just small area that was making a huge impact. Never sought the attention of and whatnot. But when you don't do that, you find yourself in interesting places. Just happened to be the relationship this pastor had with my brother-in-law. He's at their house one holiday weekend, he and his family, and I'm there. We're sitting at the table next to each other, eating fish and laughing and joking and whatnot. Never even desired to do that. But when that's not what you're looking for, and I'm big on this, you can spot the attention seekers a mile away, because they typically don't want to do any work, but they want to delegate, but they want to be the face of. And, as they say, we got all these chiefs and not enough Indians. Yeah. But when you're the person who keeps getting all this done? And how are they pulling this off? Now you're curious. You want to go up in the trenches and see, every time we come in here, this place is just, they doing such an excellent job, or they're always on point. Who is this? You're seeking them out versus there's the chess cat right there grinning all the time, but I never see you doing anything. So I think when you really know what your gift is and you just focus on that, your gifts do make room for you. Because if you operate in excellence, people are going to want to know, who is that? And they do it with such grace and such humility. I'd like them to show the other areas. Now you're being promoted and elevated because they want you, who were great in this area and great at motivating people and pouring into people, because that's a lot of it. Project managers, you do that. One team is dragging. Why? Somebody's off. Find out why. Sometimes I'm having a personal counseling conversation with a developer in a certain area because he's got something personal going on. Nobody took the time to figure out. All they know is, we can't reach it. You know why. And you can motivate the other people to say, hey, we need to pull together and pull around and support him or her through this. And that means you do this, you do this, you do this. And when you do that, that person recognizes you supported me when I was in my time of need. Now I'll run through this brick wall for you. Yeah. But pouring into people, that's a large part of what you do, even if you are the old person on the corner of the block. When the kids walking by going to school, encourage them. How you all doing? You're looking mighty sharp, young man. What'd you do today? Tell me, how did you impress or wow them? Set expectations in people. Let them know you see something in them and you know they can do great. Oftentimes people aren't hearing that, but they'll see you and now they will, guess what I did today? Because they know you have high expectations of them.
Well, man, I appreciate sharing that, because that really relates and bring it all full circle back to say, if I want great in my life, I have to be the change I want to see. And so I encourage anybody who's hearing what we're saying. Doesn't mean that you have to have a degree. Doesn't mean you have to have a lot of different experiences. I look at the life of Joseph. Joseph in the Bible, he actually had a lot of failures, but he went from the bottom, which was in prison, to sitting on the right side of the Pharaoh. So that's what I'm saying. So sometimes just being great in the space you're in will lead you to greater things in your future. So don't worry about how it's going to happen, but you just be great at the level you at and watch what will happen. And so, man, if you can, give us something to encourage and inspire others who are watching to be the best they can possibly be.
Well, here's where technology is unique. You can be great as far as that technical skill you have. Mm-hmm. And a lot of people miss this, but I'm the best coder or programmer or whatnot. Mm-hmm. But the attitude or the personality or your willingness to collaborate is off. Are you a great team player? Are you a great team player? Because that person hiring can look at, I have sat in interviews and the interview is over and I've heard a senior director, senior manager, senior VP say, that person's great at what they do, but you can tell they'll ruin my team. Because everything they said was I, me. And I think what people miss, you're here so naturally we're talking about you. But tell me how I'm hiring for a role that's going to contribute to my team. Tell me how you contributed to a team to make it better. The average person is some kind of sports fan. Even golfers, they go play for the cup. You're a part of a team. How do I make this team better? Oftentimes, it's the people skills. It's those, what they call soft skills. Are you the person who brings the positive attitude? Are you the optimistic person? Are you the cheerleader? Are you the one who says, well, it's not my job, but I'm going to do it because it benefits all of us? Or, who did this? Who knocked that out? I went ahead and knocked it out because I figured. Those are the unique things where code is code. Mm-hmm. And there are only so many ways you can do it and be great. But how else are you going to make this team great? Because that me, I, they'll throw the rest of the team under the bus in a moment if it's all about themselves. And I think nowadays in the social media society, that's where the challenge is. Everything's about me, I right now. And we're losing that skill set of learning how to be that great team player. As great as you are as an individual, the running back has to learn how to block sometimes. The tight end has to understand that, hey, if I see this play isn't coming to me, so do I just stand down and let this guy come through and blindside my quarterback? I guarantee that's on film. And those coaches are going to say, there was an opportunity for you to do what is a little bit outside of what you normally do, but because it wasn't a play for you, you stood down. Now our quarterback got knocked out of the game. I guarantee 2 or 3 times like that, you off the team. They brought you in to be a part of a team. You're in a community, you're in a neighborhood, you're at a school, you're at a church. You are a part of a team. As great as you are as an individual, I still need to be a part of a team. I don't care how great, it's 91 degrees. I don't care how great my AC works in my car. If that transmission isn't working, I don't go out in the driveway and just cut the AC on and say, it's great AC. I need the transmission to play a role too. Yes. So they're all interconnected. We are all interconnected. Whether it's being involved civically, whether it's being involved in your church, being involved in your family, wherever you are. You are around another group or set of people. What do I bring to the table? Why am I great? And my greatness has to spill over to other. And the biggest gift you can have is being a positive influence on other people. If you can positively influence young men who are on your street, your block, to try to steer them away, because I know you're involved in a lot of programs where there are young people impacted. Those aren't all your children. But if you don't impact them, the next person they rob, kill, whatever, who's to say that's not someone connected to you? And then you're sowing seed. And you plant seed, there is a harvest. You start to see, well, they say, well, Steve took time with me and impacted me. Now let me go and do the same thing. Now 2 people can go impact twice as many. Now 4 can do 4 times as many. 8 can do that many times more. So if you don't see how the part of your life can just spread out and what you do can multiply, isn't that what Jesus did? So we're just following the example.
Well, definitely, I appreciate you for all your time, man, your wisdom, and it's inspiring people to realize, man, we have a part to play. And if we play our part, we can definitely get to the results that we're aiming for. So if you can, a lot of people know how they can be able to keep in contact of this kind of, find out more what you got going on.
Well, I don't have a big social media presence. Okay. I'm on Facebook based by my name, Derick Williams. I have an Instagram page, but there are a few ideas that I'm going to put out there regarding a YouTube channel. Because I do have other interests. I love cars. I love going to car shows, and being raised in the South, we hunted and we fished and whatnot. So I do like guns, and I collect and go to gun shows and watch all gun videos and so things like that. So there are other interests that I have that I'm working on putting out a YouTube channel and a presence. So stay tuned. So if you follow me personally, I will eventually put out information where that's concerned. Okay. But things that will be beneficial, and I do want to be more of a voice where more people can do a better job of communicating what some of our challenges are in our community. Mm-hmm. But also, how do we? I'm not big on bringing up a list of 20 things that are wrong. Let's take 5 of the 20 and come up with a solution for them. And after that 5, let's do 5 more and 5 more. So just wanting to be a voice and an advocate of how do we bring resources and things in areas that are needed to the people in the areas and the places that need them.
Yes. Man, that's good stuff, man. Definitely, I appreciate all that good information. I'm big on what you were saying. Definitely don't just point out this problem, that problem, but also bring solutions on how we can be able to correct the situation that we see. So, man, I appreciate so much. Thank you for tapping in and spending time with us here on the podcast. We thank you. We appreciate everybody. It. No doubt, no doubt. We appreciate y'all taking the time to check out this podcast. If you like what you saw right here, check out the next episodes because we got more coming at you. Please like, subscribe, and in the meantime, be great.